Hey, Beasties to here, and welcome to the wrap up of Season 5 of the VDL for the Sting Like the Rabombies. So here's my schedule and how I ended up going. So I went 4 and 4 overall with a -1 record based on my wins and losses for the regular season. And then I made it to the playoffs as the last wild card spot. And I lost in my week one of the playoffs against the Norwegian Germanitans. So overall, I'm pretty happy with how the season went. My team felt very good, and I definitely feel like a couple of these weeks, specifically like week 6, I feel like I probably could have won, but ended up losing by either bad luck or a misplay on my side. And I feel like I could have easily gone 5-3 if I would have, played a little better, had a little bit better luck. But overall, I was very happy. I never felt constricted by my team in general. I felt like most of the game, I feel like every single match I played, I could have won if I would have either prepped a little better or played better. And for the most part, it was playing better because I feel like I had answers to everything in that. Even by playoff match, even though I feel like the Germanitans specifically have one of the best teams against my team with a very strong match. And so I was very happy with how I went. My goal at the beginning of the season was go 4-4 or better. I went 4-4, and I even made playoffs, which I wasn't even really expecting with a 4-4 record. So let's get into kind of, some of the specific Pokemon I got. So this is the team I brought. But before I kind of go into the depth of any Pokemon in particular, the first thing I do want to note is that's not my original team. I did make a transaction, I think week 3 or 4 into the VDL. I exchanged Toxapex for Dragalge. So the main reason I decided to originally get Toxapex was because mainly of its ability Wide Guard, or its move Wild Guard, which the idea was to kind of play around Earthquake and Expanding Force, which are very powerful moves against my team on average, and it's a way to kind of protect my teammates with that. But in practice, it seemed really hard to bring because, like, it could be very good in certain weeks. So, for example, I had a week where I lost to Earthquake on a Terrakion. And if I happened to have Toxapex to wide guard it, there was a chance it could have done something. However, with if I brought Toxapex in that match, and they ended up bringing Stomping Tantrum instead of Earthquake, it literally does nothing because it's just there to click wide guard. And so it definitely didn't feel great overall. And in addition to that, I also wanted some more offense in Trick Room because Slowking, though very good offensively in Trick Room, does have a little bit of a downside as maybe my only Trick Room setter, which makes it a little bit difficult for me to make it on a bulky side and feel like Trick Room's going to be good. So I need to, if I want to make it bulky, I can bring Dragalge as an offensive threat instead of making Slowking both my Trick Room setter and my Trick Room sweeper, which it can do, but you don't necessarily feel like it's not great if it's forced to do that. So going into this, let's start with the Pokemon I brought most, which is Skuntank. So Skuntank was incredible this season. I brought it every time I brought it, I was completely happy. And most games I didn't bring it. I feel like it was probably a mistake, or if I didn't bring it, it shores up most of my big weaknesses of my team, which is Psychic. Psychic Pokemon are very good against my team. Skuntank was an amazing answer to pretty much every Psychic Pokemon. In addition to that, it getting Sucker Punch is incredibly good. It gets two good abilities in Stench and Aftermath. Neither of them are amazing, but they're both very good, and I definitely use both of them. In which Aftermath literally won me a game. Stench, Flinch won me a game. They're both very good. Skuntank was probably even better than Drapion, which was the other Dark Poison Pokemon that I wanted to get. They are in different tiers, but I feel like Skunktank's ability to have Sucker Punch is definitely a big thing. And Skuntank being a little bit better, especially defensively, compared to Drapion, also is very big. And so I was incredibly happy with Skuntank, and it was a tier 5 Pokemon, and it was definitely the best Pokemon on my team and the linchpin that held my team together. Next to that was Slowking. So Slowking was also amazing. It set up Trick Room very consistently. It had Regenerator, which allowed me to switch out, gain some health, making it really hard to kill in certain matchups. It's psychic, takes neutral damage to psychic, which is very important because it gave me a reasonable switch in to psychic coverage, which I only have one other, which is Skunk Tank. And its offensive output was very good. One of the big things is that I definitely going in, I wanted either Slow King or Slowbro. And if you look here, you can look at their stats specifically. You can see there's a huge difference in their stats because Slowbro normally, the original normal Slowbro, has the same defense as the normal Slow King's special defense. But here we can see that Slowbro's defense is only 95 and its special defense is 70. So it's significantly lower defensively than Slow King. In addition to that, Slow King actually has 110 special attack, where Slowbro has 100 special attack and 100 attack. And so Slow King is just such better stat distribution that it completely makes my decision to go for the tier 2 pick of Slow King over Slowbro very happy with that decision. Because at some point I was like, I picked up Slow King pretty late because I'm like, I feel like Slowbro is a fine replacement, but I feel like after having played the season, if I would have picked up Slowbro instead, I think I would have been done significantly worse because of how much better Slow King is. So next we can go to the next most broken Pokemon, which is Amoonguss. So historically, I've been very against drafting Amoonguss in draft. The big reason is because I feel like it's fairly inconsistent in the fact that people that have something like safety goggles can kind of mitigate it very well. And that's the kind of a big problem where a single item can get rid of one of your tier 1 Pokemon. But I was very happy with Amoonguss overall. I was pretty consistent with its move pool, which is just, Rage Powder, Protect, and Spore. Rage Powder for redirection, Spore for sleep, and then Protect, and then a random damaging move, which alternated most weeks. And honestly, that by itself was very good. There's many weeks in which I tried to do some cool different strategies and to try to, get, do something to, mix up my opponent. And almost every time it ended up just being like, nope, I should just stick Amoonguss there instead, which is good and bad, which is, it made my team a little bit more predictable, but it was very hard to convince myself to do something that didn't seem as optimal as just Amoonguss. And I did get, punished a little bit. I think I had, I think it was against Goomy. I had they had Safeguard and safety goggles, and I got blown out one game because of that. And that definitely, definitely can happen. Definitely not optimal, but it was very impressed with it. And I was happy to have gotten it with my tier 1 pick. So next, I got Salazzle. So Salazzle I picked up mainly because it's one of the 2 Fake Out Pokemon that are poison. I thought Fake Out was going to be really important this season, and it was. I brought it 10 times exclusively because Fake Out is really good. In addition, it is a very good speed stat. It has pretty good damage output. It definitely is not the best in every situation, but it is a very good special attacker with good speed stat that with Fake Out. I didn't do much like variance with his item. I almost always was a Focus Sash, but overall, I don't think there was much I complained about it. It did exactly what I was expecting. Not much more, but there's not much you can be asked for from your tier 3 Pokemon like that. So next we have Galarian Weezing. Galarian Weezing, honestly, I was very impressed with. I run it only 9 times, but its ability Levitate is really good. It gives me another ground immunity. I only have Amoonguss as one of my ground neutral Pokemon, and Crobat as my ground immunity. And so giving the ability to have a ground immunity is amazing. Neutralizing Gas is one of the most powerful abilities in the game because it gets rid of all the other abilities. And in addition to that, I didn't use it this season, but Misty Terrain being able to set up Misty Terrain is very good. The main reason I didn't bring it is most weeks I decided to bring Weezing. I also decided to bring Amoonguss, and That's a little bit of a nombo with the Misty Terrain and Amoonguss because Amoonguss normally his main strength is Spore. However, even without setting up Misty Terrain, I was very impressed with it. Fairy coverage is very good, especially because Fairy is one of the better types in the game. In addition, it's great defensive bulk. Will-O-Wisp, Pain Split, great. Haze, it has very good move pool overall. And, being able to, give it Levitate is just so powerful sometimes. And I think 1 week, again, I think it was against the Suxit Sable Eyes. I think I lost exclusively because I didn't give Wheezing Levitate. And I gave it Neutralizing Gas instead. And if I gave it Levitate, I think I win that week. But yeah, the Pokemon was great. No complaints at all. So next we got Naganadel. So Naganadel, I would say basically what I expected when I got it, which is I was not impressed with it in the slightest. It was fine. I got it as a tier 1. It was my last overall pick because I thought it was the best available Pokemon. I think it still is. It's not the most impressive Pokemon. It's good offensive damage. It's very fast. It has Beast Boost, which is one of the better abilities. It has not, but the problem is it doesn't really take much hits. It doesn't really one-shot many things. So mainly, if you run it, you need to either Nasty Plot to increase its special attack. You need to pair it next to a Mungus or pair it next to a Fake Out Pokemon. Or you need to give something like a Choice Specs. Definitely still believe it's probably one of the worst tier 1 Pokemon available. I don't think it was a bad decision to get it, but because I think it's better than the tier 2 options I could have gotten, but definitely was not impressed with it, but I also was not disappointed with it at all. So now we're getting into some of the less used Pokemon. So next we have Dragalge. I didn't use this that much, partially because I picked it up, I think, about halfway into the season. However, I was incredibly impressed with Dragalge. Maybe not impressed, but I think it felt very good. Like, obviously, I think Dragalge is not the best Trick Room Sweeper. Its main downside is that its offensive damage is based entirely around its ability adaptability. And that also means that it doesn't do much damage for non-dragon and non-poison moves. So I definitely wish that there was a better Trick Room Sweeper in Poison. However, there is not a better Trick Room Sweeper in Poison. If you don't include Slowking specifically, which, like I said previously, it was very good, but sometimes you need it to just be max defensive, and so you can set up Trick Room. And so it is the best available. It does do a lot of damage. However, if you see something like, a Fairy Steel Pokemon or, something to that extent, it does nothing into their team or to that Pokemon, and it's very bad offensively to the Pokemon, and there's nothing you can do about that because its offensive stats are really dependent on them being poison or dragon damage. And so it's definitely, I would say, it's more niche. It's not as versatile. However, it was definitely an important opponent on my team, in my opinion. And I'm very happy that I picked it up. I think it's a lot better than Toxapex, and it's definitely the best of all the available Pokemon I could imagine. And it's definitely the best Trick Room Sweeper. For Poison, it's just, if there was a better Trick Room Sweeper, it would have been nice. But this being the best, it did everything I was hoping and did it pretty well. So next we go with Toxicroak. So Toxicroak is another Pokemon that I picked up because I thought Fake Out was going to be important, and it was very useful. I very much had a lot of fun when I paired it next to Slowking because I was able to use Surf Slowking and Toxicroak having dry skin, so I could heal it up with the Surf with my Slowking. Other than that, it does give me some fighting coverage, which definitely was useful the couple times I brought it. In addition, it does learn Sucker Punch, which is very powerful move and definitely helps with its middling speed stat. And overall, I think that it was a great inclusion, and I was very happy with it. Obviously, I didn't bring it too many times. It didn't get any kills. However, each time I brought it, I think it was a very important part of the team, and I think it ended up helping me win. um, those most of the matches that I brought it. Other than that, it's definitely one of the awkward things with it is I really wish it had the move close combat. Its fighting coverages are a little bit awkward, and that's definitely one of the my biggest complaints about it. And I probably would have brought it more times if it had close combat specifically, because it kind of had to fluctuate between something like draining punch or low sweep. And those are powerful moves, but they're very inconsistent and they don't have as much of a damage output. And Toxicroak, which does have reasonable bulk, but it has a 4 times weakness to Psychic, which did prevent me from bringing it as a bulky Pokemon a lot of the time. Frequently, I had to bring it as a Focus Sash user because even with a lot of bulk, and even with maybe even an Assault Vest and a lot of bulk, it normally cannot survive a single Psychic move. And that was definitely one of its biggest problems with it, specifically on my team composition. However, I still think it did a lot of work and I was very happy with it. So now we'll go to some of the lower used Pokemon. So we have Crobat. So Crobat was actually my first overall pick, and surprisingly, I only brought it one time, and surprisingly, I was not very impressed with it. It seems like a very good Pokemon. It can't be faked out because of its ability to inner focus. It has a ground immunity. It has Tailwind, which all seem very good. However, what ended up happening a lot is that if you look at my like mid-speed tier Pokemon like Skuntank, Toxicroak, Quillfish, Weezing, most of them don't really benefit too much from Tailwind. That's kind of the problem. Is I've definitely felt like Crobat for Crobat to be more useful, I needed a Pokemon that could sweep in Tailwind, because I needed something like Nidoking or Nidoqueen. But the problem is that Nidoking and Nidoqueen, for example, which I think are good examples of Pokemon that pair really well with Crobat, because they're in tier 2, I would need to get rid of either Galarian Weezing or Galarian Slowking, in which both of those are Slowking specifically, but also Weezing are some of my better Pokemon in my team. And I don't think I could reasonably get rid of one of those two. And on the other side, if I got rid of Crobat for Nidoking, then my Nidoking doesn't have the support that really makes it good, which is namely Tailwind, in my opinion. Because I think Nidoking is a Pokemon that strives very good, or that can be very powerful, but in Tailwind. So the only other possible tier 1 that I could have considered picking over Crobat, or tier 2 I could have considered picking over Crobat, is Gengar. And overall, Gengar is actually not that exciting for me. It does give me a second Pokemon that can set up Trick Room, but other than that, it's honestly kind of just bad Salazzle, in my opinion. It's slower than Salazzle. It's got about the same special attack as Salazzle, about the same bulk as Salazzle. However, Salazzle gets Fake Out. And I definitely think that I wouldn't have brought Gengar much. If Gengar had Levitate, I definitely think it would probably have been a better replacement, but that's that. And so overall, Crobat, I think it was a little bit awkward of my team composition, and the fact that Tailwind didn't seem actually that useful for me. And then in addition, it also didn't seem like it did too much offensively. And then some of the times, even that I wanted to focus on some of those slower Pokemon as an offensive threat, like Skuntank or Weezing or Toxicroak, typically pairing it next to a Fake Out Pokemon or pairing it next to a Mungus actually just was better than setting up Tailwind. And that's kind of what ended up happening a lot. And so I only ended up bringing it one time. However, even though I brought it one time, looking at the possible replacements that we see up here on screen, I think that it's the best available Pokemon. It's just kind of, I feel like it just kind of was a little bit lacking there. So next we see Tentacruel, which I ended up bringing 0 times. Kind of. I brought it 1 week. I think it was against the Blazikens. I brought it. It was Choice Scarf mainly with Ice Beam, specifically to target Landorus however, that week my opponent ended up not having a great answer to Trick Room, so I decided to go focus on Trick Room, and I ended up winning that match. However, I think that Tentacruel is not a Pokemon I really wanted on my team. It's fine. It's not impressive. It doesn't do much on my team. Its speed stat is middling. Its offense is middling. It doesn't give me really any defensive utility or usage because its special defense is good but not great, especially when I have some other Pokemon that are better, especially defensive. Its speed is okay but not great. Its damage output is okay and not great, and its ability, Clear Body, is fine but not super particularly useful. However, sadly, looking at the construction of the tiers, these are all of the possible replacements for Tentacruel, which are Garbodor, Fungus, and Coughing. And if you look at the first two, you can see why these are not good. Coughing is just worse than Wheezing, almost explicitly. Obviously, Coughing doesn't have the Fairy typing, which you could say is a plus or a downside to some extent, but there's no reason on which I would bring Coughing given the fact that I have Wheezing. Similarly, Fungus is just bad Amoonguss. If there's no reason in which I'd bring Fungus if I had the ability to bring Amoonguss. And so those Pokemon are completely useless. And then the last one was Garbodor, which Garbodor is just a medium bulk, medium speed, medium damage Pokemon that doesn't do much. And so these are all the possible replacements I could have for Tentacruel, and none of them are particularly good. And I considered, I looked into it, but Tentacruel is the best of these. And so I think the only situation that I can really imagine it is, like I said, a Choice Scarf to do water damage or ice damage into something specifically as a specific target. Its special attack being pretty high is helpful. I considered doing something like Choice Scarf Bulldoze on Toxicroak with weakness policy on Tentacruel. But overall, Tentacruel is definitely not great. Honestly, didn't want it on my team. I don't think it was good on my team. However, it is definitely the best of the available Pokemon. And these are not just the available Pokemon as in Pokemon that other people didn't draft. These are actually all of the possible tier 4 poison Pokemon are Toxicroak, Tentacruel, Coughing, Fungus, and Garbodor. There's only 5 tier 4 poison Pokemon. And so I have 2 of the 5, and I think they're the best 2. It's just a little bit awkward that Tentacruel is kind of completely useless. So finally, we have Qwilfish. So Qwilfish, I did not bring a single time in a game. I did bring it in my playoff match. And in addition to bringing it in my playoff match, I strongly considered bringing it against Gumi. And I almost brought it. I literally had it in my battle box, and then right before I switched it out. And it ended up being the thing that Gumi was actually scared enough about it that they ran Adrenaline Orb specifically just to counter my Qwilfish. And so I definitely think that Qwilfish is very good pickup as a tier 5. I didn't bring it into a game, but its ability to intimidate can be very good. It having Steel Roller was a big reason I brought it into my team preview in the playoffs so I could get rid of Psychic Terrain. But I ended up just kind of not getting in a situation where I felt like it was important, or I felt like there was better options based on what I ended up having. So, for example, like I said, the Qwilfish I considered bringing it against Gumi as Choice Scarf, but the main reason I decided against it is because if they had a faster Choice Scarf user, I would pretty much get immediately destroyed by it. And so I decided to go with a Focus Sash on a Naganadel that week instead, and it ended up being optimal for me. So in tier 5, Qwilfish definitely I feel like is the best. However, I could imagine that Haunter would be a better pick. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know if I would have ever bought Haunter. However, I could imagine maybe it's better, but because it does have Levitate, it does have Trick Room. However, I do think that Qwilfish is probably the best. So overall, I feel after going through all the things, I have 3 Pokemon I don't actually like on my team. I don't think are good Pokemon on my team. However, I feel I was not necessarily picked the wrong Pokemon. I feel like I was restricted by the tier list in the poison typing. I feel like I had very few options in tier 4 Pokemon. I feel like my tier 2 Pokemon, I feel like two of them I 100% felt like I needed, which was Weezing and Slowking. And then I felt like I needed a kind of a combination of two of the other Pokemon in Tier 2. And I feel like it's which I would need like four Tier 2 Pokemon. And it's kind of, a little bit awkward in that sense. And so I think that if I had the option to change any Pokemon going into the playoffs, for example, I don't know if I would have actually changed anything, even if every single Pokemon was available. I could see, like I said, maybe Haunter for Quillfish, but I probably wouldn't even have done that. Like I said, Tentacruel I think was the best option. Crobat I think was the best option. It's just kind of the tiering of the Pokemon restricted which Pokemon I felt were great. And I definitely think that Naganadel is better than Nihilego on my team for specifically, even though Nihilego is probably considered a better Pokemon. I feel like um, even though I really wanted Drapion going into the season, I don't think I would make the exchange of Drapion for Dragalge, which is something that I'm very surprised with because of how impressed I was with Dragalge and how I think important it was as a Trick Room component. Because I do feel like my Trick Room component was very important for the season. As you see, Slowking is bringing one of my most broad Pokemon because mainly because I feel like my Crobat package was a mistake or was not great, and my fast package with Crobat was not great, and that's definitely where I think the problem lied, which was, or maybe not lied, but that's why my team skewed to the bottom was because Slowking and Amogus were amazing, and Crobat was very underwhelming, and that was kind of what happened. And so overall, I'm very happy with him. Like I said, I don't think I would change anything based on the construction of the tiering. However, I feel like if the tiers were a little bit different, I could have gotten a better team. But as the tiers constructed, I think I'm very happy with everything I had. And, I did overall pretty well. So hopefully you enjoyed this rundown and thank you for watching.